Hello everyone, welcome back to Russian Fishing 4. My name is Tucker, and we'll continue our float fishing tutorial guide character today. So it's been a bit of a rough day at work, a little bit of a long day at work today for me. So it's actually about 8:30 in the evening on October 3rd today. So this may be a little bit of a shorter episode, but we'll see how things go. So today's goal is to catch as many fish as we can. We want to acquire the supplies for T, which is going to be about 78 silver, and then we also want to acquire the worms shovel, which is 38 silver. We've got about 7 silver right now, so we need about 60 silver to make that possible. And then stretch goals would be to increase bait harvesting and then get the starter plus float kit. I'm not expecting to be able to get there, but we'll see what happens here. So again, at the end of last episode, we did upgrade our Lacerti rod. It is still in process there, so it's got 18 hours, so we will not have that today. So I have basically, between episodes, I did go over to Cottage Pond and grab worms. We had 81 worms. We now have 111. Looking at the cafe orders here at Mosquito, there's a bleak order, roach order that wouldn't be too bad, rough order for the nighttime, but nothing really jumping out at me as something I want to do right now. So let's go over to winding and see if there's anything decent over there. It's about 10:30 in game, so we got some time before we get to the nighttime and can really go after those rough. So at winding, if we look at the cafe, sleepers, crayfish are another nighttime fish. There is the bleak order that shouldn't be too bad. So it looks like we are going to start here at winding. I can't remember if I grabbed food or not, but we're going to go ahead and try. Looks like I did grab food earlier. So think we're going to start off by going back over to the pond here and try and get those bleak. And we needed 5 at 20, I believe. Yeah, 5 at 20 bleak and 284-gram sleepers would be the goal. And I'm stuck. There we go. So it's a little bit warm already out there. It's already 16 degrees out there. So again, we did get the bottom rod last episode. We do have the spark reel on it, so it's not out of commission, even though the Lacerti reel is being upgraded. So we'll probably toss it in the water to try and get sleepers, and we'll try and get bleak with the float rods. And I think there was even a roach order, if I remember correctly, as well, too. So a couple different good opportunities to get what we're looking for here. So we'll set this to 30 centimeters. We'll put bloodworms on, and we'll cast that out looking for bleak. Also set this to, we'll go a little bit shallower with this one, just see if it makes any difference. We'll go 20. I didn't want to cast out that far. And I just put it right back where it was, so we're just going to go with that. And then we'll put a 8-meter clip on that. That works well. And I missed a bite on rod 1 already. All right, so we got our rods out. Rod 1 again. Just missed it. Didn't get that where I wanted it to go. So there we go. Got everything out, and we'll see what we can catch today. It already being 18 degrees, it may be a bit of a difficult day. We'll see. starting to see a nibble here. And I guess I pulled that too quickly. I mean, I don't know. Usually that's a hit for me every single time. There we go. Ooh, random frog. Did not expect that. The way my day's been going today, it may be a lot of those. I think I'm going to catch a fish and pull out nothing. My guess is we may get enough experience points to get up to level 9. Just depends on what we catch. If we get a couple of decent fish, it shouldn't be too bad. Oh my goodness. This has been already one of the worst days for catching fish. We're getting a lot of good bites. I'm just not able to get the fish to attach properly. I may have to back off on. Usually I'd be trying to pull it out there, but I've tried that a couple times today and the fish has not actually been on the hook. There we go. And it's a bleak. That's what we're aiming for. Another bleak. Another miss. That sleeper was a little too small for the order. And I don't know why that one. And for me, these look like hits every time, and they're not. So I've got to adjust and make sure I wait a second longer than I have been to make sure they're actually on before trying to pull out the line. Kind of a fake out hit. That's been very successful against me today. I think that was 1 gram below the order. I think it was 84 and that was an 83. Looks like some folks are catching decent sleepers right now, though. Small perch, but at least it's a fish. Another bleak. I think that's number 3. Definitely a good sleeper there. That might be. It was 83. We're good. If it wasn't, we need one more decent sleeper. And I missed that one. I was actually about to sneeze and was going for my mute button, not paying attention. And didn't see it until it was too late. That's a decent bleak. So as far as bleak go, we've got 4. We need one more. Actually surprised the bottom rod has not hit on anything. That's why it's hooked into the ground. So I see this quite a bit where it'll sometimes get caught like that. Now it may have just freed up onto a fish. I see that quite often where it won't have done anything for a while. I'll try and reel it in and it looks like it's caught on the ground, and then put it down, suddenly there's a fish on it. So I was going to show you that a lot of times, especially with the reel that I put on there, it's not very strong and you have to up the friction brake a lot of times to be able to pull the hook in, but there was actually a fish on there. So that was good. Otherwise, it is possible to hook the ground, and you either have to cut or break your line, or you can travel to another location or log out and log back in to recover your rod without actually losing your hook. Getting a little bit of a nibble on the bottom rod, but not worth switching over to it yet, since we're also getting a nibble on this rod. Come on. Come on. I missed them both. Ooh, an ace. Small one, but that's the first ace we've caught. That was a bleak too. Oh, we got the 5 bleak though. All right, this spot is starting to upset me because of how many fish I missed. So I'm going to go ahead and move. So here you can see I'm reeling in. You can hear the rod clicking like it's not doing anything. So I'm going to up the friction brake a little bit. And that gives it enough resistance to be able to pull over. There's probably a little cliff or a little hill at the bottom of the river there. So we did get the bleak order. We did get the sleeper order. So coming over here to winding was definitely worth the time. We may go. I don't remember a rough order here. We'll take a look here and see if there is one. If there isn't, we may go back over to Mosquito and try and get that rough order over there just to make some more silver because it was worth a decent amount. I didn't look to see if there was anything expiring here soon either. So sleeper, it was 84, so that 183 I got didn't count. So 6.5 sleeper there. Roach, we need 4. We only got 1. We did get the 5 bleak, which is worth 20. So got about 26 silver so far. That's not bad, but not really worth staying. Crayfish is a nighttime species and also a rare one, so not going to go after that. There was not a frog order, unfortunately. So we didn't catch anything super big. Looks like every fish we got was less than 1 silver each. So not the best there, but it will do. So let's go back over to Mosquito. There were a couple of things we could target here, including the rough to just make the silver we need today. And then we may call this one a little bit of a shorter episode. It was, we did get started about 10 o'clock, so we'll play it a little bit by ear. I may try and get the bleak. The roach wouldn't be too bad to get either. And then 5 20-gram rough at night. Let's see what we can do for bleak and the roach right now. I know we haven't had as much success here bleak fishing. Some would say that looks been bleak. We really want to get punny. I keep wanting to, I just look down and see my comfort being low and keep wanting to hit the button for T, but we don't have T on this account yet. Decent sleeper there. I know tomorrow at work is going to be a busy day for me as well too, so we may have 2 late night recorded episodes. It'll definitely be an evening recording tomorrow as well. So the way I typically do it is record whenever I can during the day, get it edited and uploaded if I need to do any editing, and then release it first thing in the morning. Again, I'm US based, so for some reason last night I had it uploaded early afternoon, and it took forever for YouTube to process it. So we'll just kind of aim for 8 or 9 a.m. US time for an upload every day. And again, the goal is to try and record every day. I'm not trying to have a big backlog. I'm trying to be pretty recent, but there will be times I have to record a little bit ahead. Small sleeper. Better than nothing. It looked like a decent fish on this line, and I missed it again. About ready for rough time to start. Just because we've had so much better luck with rough here. Soon we may have to get to the stage where I don't necessarily just record a full day. I may have to record a day or two and only show the good fish, just because we'll get to a stage where we're just grinding out. But early on, especially when we're trying to just make the silver to get decent gear and advance, I want to try and do a day at a time. But if it gets to the stage where we're just grinding out fish, may do some time lapses. Or record without having commentary going the whole time. Don't know if you heard my dog do a little growl there, but he's having a good little nap. I'm going to go ahead and set the bottom rod up to be targeting more rough. And here's where it looks like I've actually hooked the ground. Yeah, because I got the friction brake turned up and I don't want to. Yeah, you can turn your friction brake all the way up to infinity. That locks it. And if you put too much resistance or too much of a pull into it, you can break your reel, which is not what you want to do, obviously. So since I'm stuck here, the other thing I can do, so I pressed enter there to open the bail, which means I'm just kind of free feeding line. I'm going to go over to the other side of the lake here, since we're close enough, and see if pulling from this angle is better. I'm not anticipating it will be. Yeah, it's not. So this is where I'm saying you could either cut your line, hold X and cut your line. Not really the best, because then you lose your hook. Or you can log out and back in, or especially early on when we're at these lakes or these water bodies that are free to travel from, I like to just leave and come back. And especially since we hadn't walked too far. And then now my rod will have magically freed itself and I won't have lost that hook. I've actually had that where I'm on land, I can see my hook sitting on land and I can't pick it up. So It's gotten a lot better than it was many years ago. Many years ago, you would get ghost snags all the time where there was just nothing to be snagged onto, but you were snagged. So they've done a lot of good work in that space. Let's put a size 20 hook on with worm. You know what? I didn't check that earlier. I bet when we were bleak fishing, we were actually bleak fishing with bigger hooks. Yeah, we had size 14 hooks on. That might have played into why we weren't catching a lot of bleak here and having things slip off more. So again, bleak, small fish, small mouth. What I bet was happening was a lot of those nibbles that we thought that I was missing on were actual hits. We just didn't have the correct hook on here. So unfortunately, I don't have another 20 hook. And I don't really want to buy one right now. I'm going to leave that one on bloodworms and see what we catch. So I put worms on these others, focusing mainly on the rough. We'll probably get some perch, gibble or two. Sleepers. So I've got worms on one and the bottom rod. I've got bloodworm and semi-shallow on number 2. I'm actually going to switch it over to maggots as we get closer to nighttime. Little sleeper. Almost thought that was a tiny perch with the way the sun was hitting it. So that time you may not have heard the bells ring on this. I didn't hear the bells ring, but I looked over and saw the line go slack, and especially with this bottom rod in particular, the tip is kind of rated. Don't tell me we hooked the ground again. One thing you can see is the tip. We got a 28 gram. I should really lower it to 14. Good. I popped it off the bottom there, out of the bottom. So I'm actually going to go ahead and lower the quiver tip to 14 grams. So that means basically that a smaller fish will still jingle the bells. What I saw on this time was the line just went completely slack. And that's that indicated to me there was a fish on. So you've got to keep an eye on your line. It can't just be listen for the bells. Yes, listening for the bells is a good thing, but seeing the tension in the line disappear is another thing to look for. But lowering that quiver tip should help since we're targeting rough, which are smaller fish in general. And I had left something running in the background there that let Discord get through, and that's what the Windows blong was. Was closing out an application and got the Windows pop-up. Again, it's been a weird day for me at work. So I didn't get a chance to plan this out as much as I wanted to, or do my usual routine before recording. Life happens. We are getting some decent gibbles though, so we should at least make some money today, even if we're not getting the rough. It's still kind of early for rough. We're just getting into rough time. Started out the day about a quarter of the way into level 8, and we're about, looks like 60%, so definitely making good progress there. There's a small roach. Reset this one. I haven't seen it do anything in a while. And there's rough number 2. Kind of glad I reset that rod. I saw a little bit of slack in the line, but there was not a fish on it. Decent roach there. Especially for the equipment we have, that was a decent roach. One of the downsides of going to the lighter quiver tips is more movement will cause the bells to jingle because the quiver tip is not as strong as it was. So, but again, we're going after small fish. Having the lighter quiver tip will be better to help indicate there's an actual hit on the line. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing a lot of activity tonight. But that's also fishing. In this game, the fish do behave in real life like they would somewhat in real life. It's not like some of the other fishing games where if you're in the right spot at the right time with the right bait, you're guaranteed to catch certain fish. The fish do move around, and spots that were active yesterday may not be active today, or spots that were active one in-game day won't be active the next in-game day. Another rough. Kind of glad I moved everything for the 2 float rods closer to this grass patch. I forget this rod doesn't have the right hook on it to be going after rough. So I want to actually go ahead and move my bottom rod over here with a short clip of 6 meters. So what I did there was I locked the bail before the weight had actually hit the ground. So you can press K as in kappa or K as in kilo to unlock the bail, make sure the rod, the weight and the bait and the hook is sitting on the ground, and then you can tighten it up. Especially when you're fishing some of the deeper spots, waiting to watching your line and making sure it's not still traveling down in the water is something you want to make sure you do. There's times you'll be fishing in 15-meter depths, and it takes some time for your line to get to the bottom of that hole, and you want to make sure your bail's open at times so that you can get all the way down to the bottom of the hole. I've lost count, but I think that's 4. And we needed 5. Ooh, decent roach. Yep, that was 4 rough so far. We are getting some decent roach and gibbles here as well too. That was my fault. I pulled the line earlier than I should have. I thought I was bream fishing for some reason. We get the rough order, we'll be pretty close to having enough silver for what I wanted today. Probably lost some silver when I was using the wrong hooks over at Winding. They're small roach. Seeing a little bit of a bite over here on rod 1. Looks like a gibbler or roach style of a bite to me. It was a roach. Unfortunately, it was a small roach, too. I wanted to reposition the float so that it was a little bit closer to the grass. So I just stepped back and pulled it backwards like that. So we definitely have a fish on the line on the bottom rod. We're close here. Got impatient. I should have waited. I did get the rough order though, so that's a good thing. I wouldn't mind, since the rough requirements are pretty small. I think we had one decent rough. Just barely a marker, so not necessarily worth keeping and waiting for one more, but we'll see what we catch here real quick. And then I may relocate and try and go after sleepers or roaches. I can't remember what else was up on the board. And again, I mentioned in previous episodes, cafe orders, trying to dial in on the species, especially early on, is some of the best silver you can make in the game. Decent little sleeper there. Didn't want to spend too much time on it because I knew we had a bite coming on this one. So let's go turn in the rough order because I forgot to look how much time we had before it expired. And I want to make sure we get that turned in. We're also getting a little bit low on food and comfort. And since we did cross midnight, we can go over here and pick up our free food. And then run over here to the cafe. The rough was 32.5 silver. So definitely worth it there. There really wasn't a whole lot else on the board. There's a bleak order and a perch order. The roach order should be pretty possible as well too. We only need 5. We already have 3. And we've got a little bit more time. We've got 68 silver and we need right at 66. So we probably actually have enough right now to get the tea and the shovel equipment, but I'd like to have a little bit more in the bank. So let's go cast out and see if we can't get some more roaches. Should be a good way to wrap the day up here. So I don't need the 20 hooks on here anymore. I'll put a 16 or a 14 on this rod with maggots. And we'll use an 8-meter clip here. And then this rod already has a 16 on it. And we'll put a 14 on this one. I'll use wet bread on this one just for the heck of it. I expect maggots or worms would probably be better for roaches than wet bread, but this is also a decent spot for carp, and bread would probably be better for carp, so I've got no problem using wet bread here. Speaking of carp, looks like a roach bite over on the bottom rod as well. There's a roach. So I think that's 4 of 5. Probably should have changed the quiver tip back up to be a little stronger. Roach tend to be a little bit more aggressive, and sometimes the quiver tip being a lower resistance quiver tip and the bait moving scares them off, which is what I think happened there. A pretty good nibble on this rod, and then had a good bite over on rod 1. You got to keep an eye on that, especially with float fishing. As soon as you see the fish on, you got to try and get the fish. So keeping a close eye on your rods is very important. And why I typically my brain only lets me do 2 rods per float rather than 3, is having that third thing to focus on is usually just a little too much for me. Depends on the activity, especially here at Mosquito. Things can be very active, where you pretty much saw as soon as I set rod 2 down, we already had a bite over here on rod 1. And I thought we had something over here on the bottom rod, but we didn't. I kind of like it where we've got the 2 floats fairly close by, so I don't really have to rely on the float cam. I can actually just look at the 2 at the same time here. And that's also usually the way I like to set my rods up is, so there are different colors of floats on them. So I know, right now that white is number 2 and yellow is number 1, or red is number 1. And especially, I tend to use the luminous floats for night fishing, and having different colored luminous floats is also useful for that same purpose. We ran out of maggots, so I'll switch over to worm. I'll shut the bells up. You can get caught on the boat and have to move around or drag the fish over the boat. And you actually can buy a ticket and troll around in the boat. Here at Mosquito, I don't see a point in doing that, especially with the gear we have. Not worth it, and not really focusing on spin fishing. Later on, there's a lake called Quarry that is a great place to grab a boat and go trolling, and you can easily make 200 to 300 silver an hour just trolling and spin fishing, where you basically throw 2 lines behind your boat and let the boat drag them through the water instead of reeling them in, and then just kind of keeping an eye on the lines. And you can even throw a third that you hold in your hand, but you lose some control over the boat when you have the third rod in the water, and you can't. You look kind of right there in the center, those are the rod holders. If you have a third rod, you can't pick up one of the rods that's in the rod holder. You have to reel it all the way in and then pick up the rod in the rod holder. Ah, wrong rod. Come on, baby. Come on. Come on. Yes. Decent perch. Thought it was a frog with the way it darted off. I never changed the quiver tip on that rod, did I? Nope. It's still the green light one. Probably another perch here. So we've gotten the roach order. I think there was a perch order as well, and we might have gotten that one as well. We'll see what's on the line here. And we'll reel this fish in. I do want to remember to go pick up my Lacerti. It should be almost ready, if not already ready for picking up from the workshop. Decent roach there. All right, let's go turn in what we've got. Take a look and see if the Lacerti rail's ready for pickup. I'd like to get that rod and reel back to normal. So 174 gram, we need 5 of them. So there's another 10 silver. Perch, we needed 5. We only have 2 that qualify. Nothing else there. So I know we caught a frog earlier. I sold it, but you can't catch a frog at Winding and sell it to the cafe at Mosquito. You can only sell fish that you caught at that water body to the cafe. You can sell it to the fish market, just not to the cafe. So a couple of decent fish here. 2.5 silver for that roach, 2.5 silver for the sleeper. So 26 fish, another 15 silver. That gets us up to 93. So that's definitely good news. That means we got enough to, I think, get both the tea kettle and the equipment there and the worms shovel. So come over here to the hardware store and you can buy the Fiscama tea kettle. It's $19 or 19.9 silver. You also need a book of matches. You can buy one of them, and that gets you 50 matches. And then you need at least one piece of firewood. So you actually go basically create a campfire and then brew your tea. Once you don't use a firewood for every craft, you use it basically once per session or once per water body that you're on per session. So I'm only to buy one, so that was another 75 cents. We've got plenty of silver left to go buy the actual tea from the grocery store, so I'm going to go ahead and buy the shovel as well. So this shovel allows you to dig for worms, and also as you dig, you will increase your bait harvesting skill and increasing your bait harvesting skill unlocks new baits. So we're going to come back over here to the grocery store. And if you scroll down, you see where we can buy a pack of tea. So you can buy 10 portions of tea for $6 or for 6 silver. And each portion of tea actually gives you 6 thermoses of tea. So that could be up to 60 thermoses of tea for us, which would be very nice. So what I like to do is I like to put my shovel on 5, and then you can take your shovel out and you can dig. And we caught 7 worms just by digging that, and we did level up our harvesting baits to 0.6. The downside is that uses a lot of energy. So if you look at the first bar in the bottom left, it is now red and low. So that's where having good comfort and good food will allow that to regenerate. And right now I can't dig because I've got insufficient energy, and casting rods out, I won't be able to do as good of a cast, as far of a cast, or with float fishing, since you're using your muscles to pull the fish in, I may not be able to pull some of the bigger fish in easily. So it's kind of a toss up, but it gets you free bait or cheaper bait than buying it outright. So I did come over here back to the workshop, and our Lucerti 2 4000S has been returned to us, and it is now a 5.5 kilo reel. So very happy for that. So we'll take the spark off. We'll put the 5.5 kilo Lucerti on. We'll take the 3 kilo line off. We actually may go look for some better line, but we'll at least put the 4.8 kilo line on. So right now we could not turn the friction brake all the way up on the reel because it can do 5.5, and our line can only support 4.8 kilos. So we would break our line. I mean, we could turn the friction brake all the way up, but we risk breaking our line. I like to have line closer, or maybe just a little bit heavier than the friction brake. So every reel actually has kind of a hidden max load that's higher than what the friction brake can support. So you can oversize your line a little bit. I didn't think about that. So that's something I'll look at between episodes. Not really worth showing that off. So I'm going to go over here and show you how to brew tea. I'm not going to brew all 10 of them on camera. I may brew some of them off camera. The noise it makes, I don't like it. I find it annoying. And I'm sure it would be annoying on YouTube to just watch me sit and click a button 10 times. That's not actually catching fish. So you brew your tea over here at the campground. So again, I showed this off. The little tent, let me turn. The little tent here is the campground on the map. So you come over here to the campfire. The first thing you have to do is press Y to start a fire. Then you press E, and here's everything you can cook. You can bake potatoes, you can boil eggs, you can make coffee or cocoa, but those are more expensive to buy the equipment you need. So you select the hot tea, it will pre-fill in everything that you have, and then you click make. Somehow I've actually failed making tea before. I guess you drop the thermos if you wanted to role play it, but again, one portion of tea became 6 thermoses of tea, and we leveled up cooking a little bit. So you will probably drink thousands and thousands of portions of tea in the game. Tea does give you comfort. So when it's raining and cold out, your comfort goes down. Tea does restore that, and tea also restores a little bit of food as well. On a lot of my counts, the only thing I use is tea, because it does give you that food and that comfort at the same time. And we use the food and comfort to get energy to buy or to dig worms up. So, um, looks like so far we've been successful. Again, I know the the noise is pretty loud for brewing tea. I don't like it, and there's times I will make 100 tea at a time and just mute the sounds because it gets annoying. But I think we've got that's all 10 of them. We were successful on all 10 of them. So now you can hold down T as in tango, and you can pick. So you actually start with some canned pork and canned sorry. You start with a Jingle Bell lemonade, and you start with some alcohol. I like to put my tea on number 4. And now what you can do is our energy's back up. Let's dig some more worms. We got 3 worms there, so not as many as before. But then you can press 4, and you can see in the corner there, I consumed a thermos of tea, so one of the 60 portions of tea, and our food and our comfort is going up again, which is making our energy go up. As your energy goes up, your food and comfort go down. So that type of thing. And then again, I mentioned how you buy one firewood. You can see the fire here is still burning, so we could run back to the grocery store, buy more tea if we wanted to, and brew some more. But 60 will get us a couple of good episodes of fishing in. So we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. As far as our goals today, we definitely caught fish. We got the supplies for the tea and the worm shovel. Didn't really work on bait harvesting. I may start off next episode buying some potatoes and chopping those up to work on bait harvesting. So, bait harvesting is kind of our next step. Having pearl barley at level 12 when you get over to Oldberg is definitely worth it. Even getting up to garlic dough, we won't have that at level 12. But you can go look at what you need by pressing O and harvesting baits. So pearl barley, we need 20%. Right now we're at 0.8. So we've got a ways to go, but being able to dig worms will help us out there. And then as you kind of level up your bait harvesting, you'll actually be able to dig red worms out as well too, which is a nice thing to do. And we may end up even putting points into harvesting worms and harvesting red worms, especially harvesting red worms, because that basically means you will get more of them when you have a successful dig. So I think we're going to go and wrap it up there. I appreciate everyone watching, and we'll record another episode tomorrow. Everyone have a good one, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.